somehow. Okay. So actually right now would be a great time for you all to introduce yourself. I forgot we had this slide here. So Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Garcia Salgado, and I'm the principal of the adult schools at Sweetwater.
I am Audrey Deerdorf. I am a resource teacher with the same organization as Sarah.
Where? Sweetwater. San Diego, California.
Yes, Sweetwater in San Diego, California. Hi, everybody. I'm Netta Anasari. I work for a project called the Outreach and Technical Assistance Network. Short is OTAN. And we are housed at the Sacramento County Office of Education in California. We are considered a state leadership project, and our focus is on ed tech and rolling out ed tech and hybrid HyFlex learning to all of our adult ed providers in our state.
Okay, thank you for those introductions. So we just have a few tips for a hybrid session. For those of you that are in person, we are going to ask you to use the microphone if you have any questions or comments so our online participants can hear us. If you'd like, you can join the Whova app and do chat with the online participants, but you're not required to. For those that are online, welcome. Thank you for joining us online. Please feel free to use the chat within the Whova app to share your questions. We have Netta and Audrey both monitoring the chat, and so they'll be happy to share your questions. We may at some point in time ask you to unmute if you're willing to share your thoughts and questions as well. And for those of you that might be joining the recording, please feel free to still look at the chat as we go along, and all the resources will be available to you. But as we go along, regardless of whichever format you're in, we hope that you ask questions, share your experience, and certainly follow up and contact us with any questions you might have. And so one of the things we're trying to do as we present our session today is model what good HyFlex teaching looks like. And so as you can see here, if you were just teaching an in-person class, you would not need to go through all those different formats and modes. But as a HyFlex teacher, especially when your students are new to HyFlex, and even for yourself as a teacher, as a reminder that you do have learners in other modes, even people that might be watching or recording or doing work asynchronously, that you want to make sure that all your learners are seen, felt, and heard. And so we'll try to be sure to do that. There's going to be times where we'll see if there's any comments or questions in the online chat, and we encourage you to join that. So I'm part of the Ideal Consortium. It's coordinated by World Education, and it's a group of, at this point, 21 states. They're in the dark red color that are member states. And what they do is focus on how they can collaborate and coordinate to offer digital education and improve those services for adult learners, as well as for teachers and staff. So if you are from one of these states, your professional development system has access to resources that are available through the Ideal Consortium. If you're from a state that isn't, we'd love to have you join and become a member. Or there's also resources that are available for you to access for free. And one of them we're going to share with you in just a second. So. But first, we thought we'd start off with a poll everywhere just to get to know everyone that's in the room and also online. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to open up your camera if you're in person. You could also do this if you're online. For those watching the recording, you won't be able to participate in this live, but you will be able to see the results, and you can kind of think about where you might fall. But if you could open that up, what should happen is it's going to take you to a screen. It might say waiting for the host to start the activity, or it may have already started, but I want to make sure I give everyone a chance to scan the QR code. I'm just going to switch over to Poll Everywhere. So this is an example of a tool that HyFlex teachers, or if you're even teaching in person or online, you could use with your students. It's similar to Menti, Slido. Those are all similar tools that allow learners to engage. A lot of times it's great if your learners only have phones, they can still participate in this. But first, we just wanted to get a sense of who's in our audience. So it looks like we have a lot of instructors. We also have program administrators, professional developers, a few state staff, and some that fall under other, which makes sense because in adult ed, we all wear so many different hats. So I have another question for you. Welcome to everyone. What's your familiarity with HyFlex? And so there's a couple of categories here. I'm going to move this out of the way here. So one of the great things about Poll Everywhere Menti is that you can see how there's live changing of the results, and that's a great way to teach graphing uh, and math skills to your learners, so that they can see how when one person adds another response, how that can affect the percentages. It looks like most of us, or about half of us, have heard of it, but are still learning, a few that are brand new to it, and some that are experienced. For those of you that are new, we hope that you leave with some more information about what HyFlex is. For those of you that have done it, we hope that you share your experiences, because I think it's always great to hear from teachers that are doing HyFlex or program administrators. And so our final question is, what are you most interested in learning about during our session? And this will just kind of help us get a sense of what you're hoping to gain so we can meet your needs. Okay. Cost, equipment, and we definitely have that in our session already. What I will say is Sweetwater is definitely blessed to have one of the best HyFlex setups that you could probably have. You can, and there are adult ed teachers that do HyFlex with different setups that may cost a little bit less. And so keep that in mind as we're going through the presentation. How to pay teachers, we're going to definitely touch on that a little bit. How to engage students, how to do it better, and strategies from teachers that work in the field. So I think we're going to have some resources that should address all of those. So thanks for your input. We appreciate you taking the time to do that. So I'm going to go back to the presentation and just jump past these real quick. So we wanted to just introduce you to HyFlex because it is something that's fairly new to adult education. The term was coined from the best we know by a professor, Dr. Brian Beatty. And he basically combined the words hybrid and flexible to come up with HyFlex. And it's the idea that there's both online and in-person activities that are happening, teaching and learning, and that it's flexible and that students can choose which format they want to attend with no learning deficit. And so we'll talk a little bit about what that means. So there's 3 delivery modes in HyFlex. And what we found, I co-authored a HyFlex guide for adult education that in the Whova app, if you scroll down under our pictures and names, and there's a description, there's a link to the HyFlex guide there. It's a free resource that's available to you. And I co-authored it with Dr. Jen Vanek from World Education and David Rosen, who's a consultant in education and a longtime adult educator. And what we did was interview programs from across the country that were doing HyFlex after 2020 to find out what it looks like in adult education, because Dr. Beatty is doing it in higher ed. And so we wanted to find out what it looks like in adult ed. So there's 3 modes when we talk about HyFlex. The in-person, so for example, those of you that are in the room, sometimes referred to as roomers. There's those of you that are online, which are sometimes referred to as Zoomers. And then there's the third component, which is online asynchronous. And that's the idea that if you have a learner that can't join a synchronous class, either online or in person, but they still want to learn, that they still have a way that they can participate in learning as well too. And so it may be that they're using a curriculum. They may be watching part of a recording of a class. They may be doing different activities to meet those goals. And so HyFlex in adult education really became more prevalent after 2020 from the pandemic, but the need for it still exists. So if you think about some of the reasons why your learners can't come to class, I'm guessing childcare, feel free to drop them in the chat if you're online, childcare, transportation issues, work schedules, family responsibilities, unexpected weather events, all of those things still exist, even though we're not dealing with what we were dealing with in 2020. And so HyFlex is still an important way to help provide flexible services for adult learners to help make sure that they can meet their goals. And so there's 4 key values that Dr. Beatty talks about in his book about HyFlex. And so the first one is that there's learner choice. We'll talk about each one of these. And so what that means is that learners can choose which format they want to participate out of those 3 modes. Now, for some adult ed programs, they allow learners to choose daily. For some, they're more weekly, or some it's more based on a semester, like, or a period of time, so that programs have found that they need to pick what works best for them. And so it really varies by adult education program, what they find works best for them. In addition to that, equivalency is really important. And what that really means is that no matter which mode you participate in, it all leads to the same learning outcomes. You're all focused on the same learning outcomes. So it's not like, oh, well, because these people come to class, they get more attention and they meet the outcomes, but anybody else that's online really doesn't. It's really important when you're doing HyFlex that all the learners are working towards the same outcome and that they're all hopefully meeting the same achievements as well. But it doesn't mean that education has to look exactly the same. So for example, if you're teaching an in-person class, you may have learners do a small group discussion and complete a Google Doc as a group. Maybe for the people in Zoom, they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it in breakout rooms. And for the people that are online asynchronous, they might be posting on a discussion board or in Google Classroom, and they could be completing a Google Doc individually. And so in terms of reusability, when we talk about teaching these modes, we hear a lot from teachers like, oh, that's a lot. You might feel like you're teaching twice the amount of students. And so it's really important to look for how you can reuse the same material. So in the last example, people are doing the same Google Doc. Here, the class recording, that could be available for all your learners. Maybe a learner needs to revisit a concept. They can watch that. For the asynchronous, they can see what they missed in class. And the last thing is accessibility. So it's really important that students have the technology skills as well as access to devices that they're able to participate in HyFlex. And so, like I mentioned before, the idea is that no matter which mode a learner picks, it all leads to equivalent learning outcomes. And so some things to really consider if you're adding a HyFlex class, you want to think about who your learners are and what technology do they have, what classroom technology is available. It's so important to have training for teachers, and that's one of the things that we're going to focus on today. Tech support for teachers and learners is really important, not only just at the beginning, but ongoing, because, just like here, this could be working fine this session, but the next person, maybe the internet's acting up. So tech support is important and ongoing. Orientation is important to prepare learners, and having a culture of learning and experimentation is really important. This is something that's new for adult ed. It's new for our learners. And so it's important for teachers to feel safe to try this out and make mistakes. And it's okay for learners to know that I'm learning too, as well as I'm trying out this new mode. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk a little bit more about Sweetwater Adult Education School.
All right, thank you, Destiny. So yes, I will talk a little bit about Sweetwater Adult Education. As I mentioned, we are located in San Diego, California. We have 4 adult schools. National City Adult is our northernmost in San Diego, followed by Chula Vista Adult School, Montgomery, and then San Isidro Adult School. San Isidro Adult School is about half a mile from the Mexican-American border there. We do offer diverse program offerings, ESL, like many of us, citizenship, digital literacy. We have our adult basic education program, as well as our adult secondary for the high school diploma, high school equivalency, and we do have career technical ed classes. We have a variety of student support services. One of the latest that we've implemented is our Disability and Access Resource Center, which we also refer to as DARC. And that really helps us support students with or without disabilities, which was something that we found very challenging in adult education. We have flexible enrollment, so it's open enrollment throughout the year. CTE does have managed enrollment, but we see that students come in anytime during the year. So we want to have that open door policy. Part of what we also offer is individualized education. So we want to meet each student where they are. A change that we made a couple of years ago was in our ESL program. And so what we did was we asked students, why are you here? Well, why do you want to learn English? And it came down to three different reasons. It's I want to learn English for employment, to get a job, to get a better job, or I want to learn it for community to be able to communicate with my child's teacher, with the doctor, or academic. I want to improve and go to university. So then we have our 3 pathways for ESL. So why HyFlex instruction? As Destiny mentioned, we all went through the pandemic and we saw the need, right, for technology. We also saw that there was a little resistance of coming back. So this was one way that we were able to retain some of those students. Moving forward, what we've seen now that it's an accessibility issue, right? As mentioned before, why are the reasons that students can't come? Childcare, maybe a change of work schedule that they didn't anticipate. Some of them have to take care of parents or their caregivers. So we wanted to make sure that they had the ability to continue coming to classes and not miss anything. Flexibility, we want to give them the options, right? We want you to attend anytime that you can. We're here to help you, and we're bridging the gap. One thing that we saw in adult ed is that we used to have a lot of satellite campuses. So we used to have those off-campus centers. We did have to close a lot of those, but this was one way to be able to reach those students, and then, not having that transportation barrier as well. And with that, we're going to pass it over to Audrey. Thanks, Audrey.
Hi, everybody. Hello. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the resources that we actually use in the classroom, some practical things. Now, as we said, you don't have to have exactly what we have. Like right now, we're doing HyFlex, and all we have is the camera on the laptop, right? And we're sharing our screen, and that's it. So I'm actually HyFlexing because we have students online, and then we'll have those that actually get the recording. Now, one thing about having it here like this is I'm a teacher. I like to move around and interact. I can't. Sorry, I don't mean anything harmful to those who are online, but I like to move around. So the reason why I say this is we have employed a smart board. So this smart board is actually a supercomputer, right? You touch it, you can write on it. It works exactly like a computer. It has a computer pack on it, but it's also a monitor. So when you share it, it's just this big. So we have one in each classroom, and there's many different types. We have an OWL camera. So instead of having the camera on the laptop where I have to stay in one place, it's this little, I'll show you. I have a video of it, but it does a 360 of the room, and it's a speaker and it's a microphone. So I get to move around and it follows me. Each classrooms, we bought 10 student laptops for them to start using them. They don't take it home. They just use it in the classroom. We actually have more, but we started with 10. And then being able to charge them all the time, we had like this charging tray or cube that we plug them in every night. And then we have a document camera. If the teachers ever wanted to show like the book, like the old, overhead projector, but it's now fancy. It's called a document camera. And so it will show that on the screen for the students at home. So the estimated cost of all of these things together would be $19,000 for one classroom. Okay. Of course, you can bargain. If you have an administrator that has good bargaining skills, you can always bargain. And of course, this is like the dream. So remember, you can do as much as just having it online with your laptop and a camera, and that's it, right? So, and then the speaker would be from the actual laptop itself. So you don't have to do that. Question, sorry, hold on.
When you say camera, do you mean the OWL camera, just laptop and OWL camera, or any type of camera?
Thank you. When I say camera, I mean the laptop camera. So the laptop has its own camera, it has the microphone. So this could be, and then since it's a laptop, I can unplug and actually move it around and show the students online, what's happening in the classroom, even sit them down like with a small group, like on the laptop, right? So that they can do small group work, and you can do things like that. Thank you for the question. Technology that we have given to every teacher and learner. So our district, because we're a part of the Sweetwater Union High School District where we have the 4 adult schools. Everybody has Google Workspace for education. Most of our teachers use Google Classroom, and then with that, Google Meet for their platform where they're talking to students online. A lot of our CTE instructors use Microsoft. So they use Microsoft Teams, and then within the Teams, you actually can post lessons and all of those types of things. And then every student, adult student, has an email account through the district, which I know is not usually the case. So that has helped them so that they could enter into the Google Classroom, and it's not a personal email, right, when it's Google for Education. So those are the resources we have. And so I'm just going to give you a quick video demonstration of each one. This is what our smart board looks like. Let's cross our fingers that the internet is okay. All right, where am I? Right here? Okay. Oh, is this the right one? Okay, here's the smart board one. Can you hear it? Oh, sorry.
Because as you can see, this should look familiar to you because it's an actual computer. It looks like your laptop computer. It has all the same functions on the bottom of the screen. You can also, it mimics your desktop. So this is just like a giant computer. So whatever you can do on your laptop, you actually can do here as well.
Okay, so that was just like hopefully you could hear it online. If you couldn't, let us know. But that was that. Then we have the owl demonstration. If you guys have never seen an owl, it actually hoots like an owl when you turn on. And this is the hooting owl here.
Our trusty owl. The owl has buttons on it. So you have the mute one. So if you click mute, it will turn red, and unclick, that means it's now on. You also have the plus and minus buttons, which are the volume. So plus, of course, is more sound, minus is less sound. On the very top of this is the 360-degree camera. So if you have a film on here, you want to pull it off, and you probably would want to dust it every once in a while, but this is what will capture the entire classroom as well as your smart board.
Okay, so each of our classrooms are set up that way. Let me go to the next. Okay, so this is kind of like the classroom setup here. So what you will see is here is that smart board. The owl is next to it. I don't know if you can see it right there. And then the teacher basically is up here speaking. So we don't need a microphone system because the owl is our microphone and it picks up pretty well. So that's our classroom setup. So you can see it here a little bit closer. So here's a student online within Google Classroom. There's that owl. And then actually she teaches, this is our teacher, Lisa Wilson-Sharman. She teaches the students how to log into Google even from the classroom. And then she puts them in little groups. So they log in, they invite the online person into the actual laptop, student laptop, and then they have their small group. If she has enough students, she'll just put them in like a breakout room because Google Meet now has breakout rooms. So she'll do that as well. And we'll hear from Lisa a little bit later on. But again, this is just like if you wanted to dream ideal, that would be this. But it could be as simple as what we're doing right now with a laptop instead.
Okay, so a little bit about what kind of teacher supports we have in place. We do have paid extra duty, right? So any teacher, sure, come on. We're fortunate to have that. And so we set aside an hour of paid extra duty for teachers to plan their HyFlex. HyFlex is an opt-in, right? These are for teachers who would like to do it. In addition, we have daily collaboration time set into everybody's schedule. And that happens Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between 4:30 and 5:30. And that was one of the ways that we were able to bring in our professional development. It was a time that was already set aside for collaboration. We have resource teachers at each site. As I mentioned, we have 4 sites. So we have resource teachers who focus on a program area. So for example, ESL, but they also are the main point of contact at their site. We do have an additional resource teacher, Audrey here, who is our tech support, right? And as you can see, she's very tech savvy. She does a lot of the professional development. She does a lot of the technical support. We do have, we mentioned her, 2 ITs, right? 2 information technologists, technicians that support the 4 sites. And that's been very helpful for us. And we're going to talk about the year-long PD.
I chose a really bad seat over there. So I was telling you a little bit about who we are, and obviously you've heard kind of Sweetwater's approach to how they are not only taking in this HyFlex piece and providing the equipment and the training for their teachers, but when you think about it, just think of it from an equity lens for a minute. They're really reaching our students. We often don't remember that we ourselves are the adult learner, right? So if we put ourselves in our adult learner's shoes, we have full-time jobs, we are parents, we have all of those different factors. And so if we create this HyFlex space, which Sweetwater has done an amazing job and has also created space financially, physically, to address those equity gaps. So we've heard that 19,000, we thought, oh no, that's not what I have in my budget. That's not the only way you can do it. I've seen people, you have a camera on your laptop here. Hi, online folks. But then you might get an additional webcam that's facing out. Those are, anywhere between $30 to $50, right? And they can still get the room. It may not give you the 360 effect, which you're following, but at least the students know that who else is in the room. Recording features on your Zoom does the same thing. So again, we're so proud of Sweetwater and the work that they're doing to meet our students where they are. They're inclusive, they're being equitable, they're ensuring that learners have a space to learn no matter where they are. We applaud them because not only have they invested in the equipment, but they've also invested in paying their teachers. Because without that, even though I'm going to hook up this additional cam, maybe it's the 360 cam or what have you, I still need to learn how to do that. I still need to learn how to troubleshoot. I need extra time. I'm also teaching in different formats. So I have my in-person, I have to troubleshoot and help my online folks, right? I myself am helping, or I'm available for Zoom participants today. Audrey is as well. It's 2 people supporting the teacher destiny, right? So those are some of the additional pieces that we factor into that. So I have to applaud them doing that. Now, they're 1 school in our very large state of California. And so we at OTAN are the state leadership project. That is our job, is to provide them with training and development for their teachers to be able to bridge that gap. It's not as equitable across the state, though. We have true inequities when it comes to finances, fiscal, all those different pieces. So we have parts of California that are very rural, in areas where they don't even have bandwidth, right? And so therefore those elements start to factor into that. There's about anywhere between 430 to 450 adult ed providers in California, Sweetwater being one of them and one of our models. And we support them through the state leadership project, through EdTech training and development. When we when we know that we don't have the trainers. So by the way, we know Audrey's a superstar in the field. We snag her. We say, hey, Sweetwater, can we borrow her? We hire her as a subject matter expert to help us train individuals out in the field on EdTech, HyFlex being one of those topics. So that's kind of our job. But through our partnership, and this is where I'm going to kind of go into our partnership with the Ideal Consortium. So you heard from Destiny how she is working with the Ideal Consortium. The Ideal Consortium is, our membership with the Ideal Consortium is so beneficial. So OTAN is the member. And so when we go in and we have collaborative talks and we say, we don't have a trainer for this specific tool, well, the Ideal Consortium will come back and say, well, I have a guide. We just created a guide. How can I be of assistance? So it's kind of our adult ed family and circle. So this conversation literally went like this. It was, we were very lucky to host our annual conference, and Destiny was one of our presenters, along with Jen Vanek from Ideal Consortium, we are a member state with the Ideal Consortium. And their principal at the time, or director rather, approached Destiny and said, hey, I'd like to do some of that work. I'd like to train my teachers. I have money. I'm going to purchase all this equipment. I want to do this. And Destiny says, Netta, I was approached to do this. Can we partner with this? And so that's how that collaboration works. And that's how that family kind of works to ensure that we're distributing training and development for all of our teachers across our state with the help of our national partners through the Ideal Consortium. Destiny then is our HyFlex instructor, and we meet halfway with our technology integration expert, Christy Reyes, which I will go in just a little bit after Destiny talks to us a little bit more about PD.
So Sweetwater decided to take a year-long approach to how they did this PD. They started with an in-person kickoff. So I was fortunate enough to go out to their site in beautiful San Diego and get to meet with all their wonderful educators. And I got to spend a day with them, 2 days, I think, really just getting to know. We started off with just how to use a QR code. How do you make a QR code? How do you use a QR code? We talked a little bit about what technology integration might look like. And then we followed up with monthly webinars. These were webinars where all their teachers participated in. The first week of the month was focused on HyFlex topics. The second week of the Monday of the month was focused on tech integration. And Christy Reyes, the OTAN trainer, led all of those. And then we did an in-person wrap up. And through that, we talked about HyFlex. We kind of had a HyFlex breakout session, but we also started to delve into AI because that was a topic that a lot of teachers were interested in. And so that was one of the tools that Audrey's going to talk about a little bit more. So all their teachers participated. They were required to participate. And what we'd say is that we asked them all to set a goal for something that they wanted to do. We didn't force anyone to do HyFlex, but we asked if you're interested in it, set a goal for that. If you're not interested in HyFlex, find something that you want to start doing in regards to tech integration to improve your digital literacy skills, to improve your teachers' digital or your learners' digital literacy skills. In addition to that, we tried to use small group discussions and teacher sharing as much as possible. As you know, it's great to learn from somebody that's doing exactly the same thing you're doing in your same site. And also we used exit tickets to help guide the future sessions. And those were just Google slides. And so under HyFlex, some of the topics we talked about were orienting learners, HyFlex lesson planning and teaching strategies. World Ed has an AI prompt book that is a great tool for introducing what AI is and showing you a prompt. And one of the cool things is whenever you click on it within the book, you can see what the AI generated. So some teachers were hesitant to use AI at all. And so this was a way for them to kind of see what AI can do without them even having to go on the live ChatGPT or anything. We also talked about HyFlex technology and troubleshooting, and then engagement and community building strategies. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Netta.
So, I told you a little bit about how many agencies we have throughout the state of California. So many adult ed providers through our state. We are a staff of 15. Half of our staff are developers and programmers. We help the California Department of Education with programming and development. What we do is we hire other trainers throughout the state to also help us with training at our different school sites. Audrey being one example. There are many others. And Christy Reyes is who we keep mentioning, and she is our tech integration specialist. So when we talk a little bit about HyFlex, you see we're orienting learners with HyFlex, we're lesson planning, we're using AI prompt books. But what if the teachers are not still feeling intimidated? What if they still feel like they need additional pieces? What about those learners that we feel like we need to engage more online? This is where we brought in that tech integration specialist to complement the HyFlex training resources. It was really important that they did it hand by hand because we can introduce HyFlex and this idea of a format all we want, but if we can't include the tech integration elements, then we're still leaving teachers behind. So it was as simple as, okay, well, we have online learners. How do we incorporate annotation tools on Zoom? Christy trained teachers on how to use annotation tools. What does it mean to use icebreakers? It's easy to understand what that looks like in an in-person class. What does that look like online? And how do we use a digital icebreaker? AI tools for, material development. What's available on TWE or DIFIT? How do I use that? How do teachers use that to engage their learners online and in person? We talked a little bit about the AI prompt book. We also follow the EEE framework, which is extension, enhancement, engagement. Yay. Okay, great. EEE, it's out of ISTE, one of ISTE's publishers, Leslie Kolb, produced the EEE framework. And essentially what that's doing is, it's great that you use Kahoot in your classroom. What are you doing beyond the engagement piece? Are you extending learning? Are you enhancing the learning? So that's essentially what the EEE is doing. If you remember TPAC, or if you remember SAMR, those are all frameworks that include technology. EEE was a much friendlier version for us to use just because we wanted to take engagement beyond that, beyond that Kahoot that we can use in that classroom. How do we enhance education with technology? So that was another piece that Christy Reyes trained on. And then, of course, the digital whiteboards. They had those very fancy Promethean boards. You saw them. You saw that demonstration. And so how do we use all those tools? Because they're there. They're at our fingertips. How do we engage our students online with that? Okay.
And thank you, Netta. So there's one thing I want to add before we talk about our teachers' experiences. The Sweetwater teachers are on spring break, and so we appreciate them so much. We want to make sure that they had a spring break, and so they weren't able to join us. And so Audrey was able to make some videos for them. But I did want to share 2 resources that are available to you all if you're interested in learning more about HyFlex that we used in our teaching. So the first thing is a guide, the guide that I referenced. It's the guide for implementation of HyFlex models in adult education. This is available online through EdTech Books. It's also available, like I said, if you scroll down on the Whova app underneath our names, it's available there. There's chapters here that talk about each one of these things: technology, program evaluation, how to teach in a HyFlex class, and it's all based on interviews with adult educators who are doing this. In addition to that, I want to show you, and I didn't pull this up, so bear with me for a second. I'm going to put the mic down. So let's see if I can pull this up. We created a playlist of videos that are available here on YouTube, and I will add a link to this to our session as well. So it's available to you. There's 5 videos, and they feature a teacher named Vi Haas. She's located in Arizona. You can see what a HyFlex class actually looks like. So if it's something new to you, or if you have teachers that are unsure what it is, it's a great way for them to see an example of an activity that's done via HyFlex. You can see how she sets up her classroom every day and how she uses an online assessment tool for HyFlex. In addition to that, we talked a lot about different technology options. And so in the HyFlex technology tour, this video here features a teacher who shares how they use something called a swivel to do their HyFlex. And this video here, the Pima Community College, shows how Vi uses just two different camera setup and these things called Jabra microphones and speakers that she puts throughout her classroom. So these, especially Vi's option, are more low cost options for HyFlex if that's something that might be a hindrance to your program if you're thinking about adopting HyFlex. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Audrey, who's going to share our teacher experiences.
Thank you. So as Destiny mentioned, the teachers couldn't be here with us, but they went ahead and were online. So the first video that we're going to do is, remember I showed you those pictures of the smart board and the owl and the teacher? This is the teacher's room. This is the teacher's interview. So I guess I have to go out again and there she is. Okay, so let me do that. So this is Lisa Wilson Sharma. She is an ESL teacher.
Hello, my name's Lisa Wilson Sharman, and I am an ESL teacher for Sweetwater Union Adult Division. I teach the workplace pathway, intermediate and advanced ESL, and I also teach a digital literacy class in the afternoons. Well, I think the biggest impact has been on retention. Students are able to join the class wherever they may be. So there's lots of flexibility, and I can see students joining in many different places, whether it's at work, in their car, at home because they're sick. Students are comfortable going online and they're able to join in groups, breakout rooms, and be a part of class even though they're not physically here. The first one is Google Classroom because I'm able to put all of the work into the classroom so all students have access to the classwork assignments, announcements. The second technology that's been most successful is the Poll Everywhere. That allows for engagement. We have a good time with that one. I can ask them questions and they can play games on there. You can give them challenges. They were able to mark on maps. And there's just a lot that happens in Poll Everywhere that I wasn't even aware of until I was exposed to it and started diving into it. The third technology that's been very useful with HyFlex instruction is the dock camera. The dock camera allows me to show the class and the students online any physical documents that we're working on up on the screen, and the students can at home will have a copy in their Google Classroom, which is very handy for them to be able to see it as we're working on it, and then they have their own digital copy at home. I think the biggest takeaway for me was the plethora of apps that we were introduced to. They're all very engaging for the students, and it kept the classroom exciting and not doing the same types of activities. Three of my top ones that I enjoyed is Magic School AI, and there is many things that you can create on there. So that's one that I would definitely recommend. Padlet was another one, and Classroom Screen would be the third one. It definitely requires planning and adaptability to be prepared for a dynamic classroom environment with students online and in class. Training your students how to HyFlex is very key to making this work well in your classroom. So we have a video that was created, and it has directions on how to get online and how to use the chat box, how to raise your hand and use all of the tools on Google Classroom. Videos and interactive group work is also something that you have to prepare for. Having students in the class be able to jump onto a laptop and get online so that they can bring in any student or students that are working from home. They can join actual groups in the classroom. If you have enough students online, you could actually put them into breakout rooms, which is one of my favorite things to be able to do, because then they can go into their own private rooms, work on the assignment, and talk to each other and work on the assignment there. Having handouts and material for all students is a must. You want them to have access to what the students in class are having access to. It's really important not to forget about the students that are online. You have to remember to call on them and have them write their answers in the chat and continue being a part of the class even though they're not physically here.
So I think, oh, wow, now it's really loud. So one of the things is
Work and play.
Is the pre-teaching, like how to use Google Meet and all of those things. She actually trains some students so that because we're open enrollment, new students come in. I don't know if any of yours is open enrollment, but students will come in the middle of the semester and then they're like, what are you, why are they online? How do they do that? So the students will then train the new students, which is really cool, you know? Okay, so this is Tawny. Tawny Smith. She is our CTE drone teacher, and she uses Microsoft Teams, and she'll explain.
I am Tawny Smith. Currently, I am the adult CTE drone course instructor. This is my third year in drone instruction with the district, but I've been involved in the drone industry and teaching drones for groups of all ages for the past 5 years, I'd say. So it's been nice to kind of bring it from the field into the classroom. Really, when people are coming into the classroom, you know, their time is as valuable as ours. And I wanted to make sure that they were able to make the most of their instructional time and the time that they did have. Many of the students have other responsibilities, and sometimes they even have work scheduling conflicts with class. But if they really have an active interest, I wanted to provide an option for them to keep up. Also, with the way that, you know, health concerns have been over the last few years since pandemic, I also wanted to have a way for students who maybe, you know, had a fever, weren't feeling the best, to feel like they could stay home and not fall behind. But then also encourage sick students to stay home so that the other students weren't impacted by them coming into class. So HyFlex, to me, it just made sense because it offered the flexibility that my students needed, but then also gave them the opportunity to really stick with the coursework and complete it on time without disrupting whatever activities they had outside of class. So the owl obviously is great for in class. And so having that camera, I feel like it really lets the students that are not present in the classroom feel like they're still part of the classroom. You know, they can interact directly since it's voice activated. They can speak to the students in the class and vice versa. But then also, you know, having the smartboard access there and the way our classroom is set up, even if we're working in small groups and I'm not necessarily directly managing what's happening on the board, the students can interact with the board as well, and the students that are connected virtually. The other tool that's been helpful is Microsoft Teams. So we, for all of our classroom assignments, chat, you know, materials that we upload, it's part of their professional development that I get them used to using Microsoft's suite of products. And Microsoft has integrated really well. Like there's a lot of the tools and things that are very HyFlex compatible. So we can record the lectures, I can share the screen, I can do annotations, I can, you know, upload materials that and then save the recordings in a calendar feature that allows them to go back and review based on topic and based on the days that they wanted to either study or days that they'd missed, weren't able to connect live, and that they can go back and watch those directly on Teams. I think it just highlighted the value of exposing our adult students of all ages to technology in general. Everyone has a certain level of discomfort with a learning curve, even sometimes the teachers ourselves. We have challenges when it comes to implementing new things in the classroom. And so the professional development was helpful because it helped me, I guess, to solidify my choices of making sure that we can incorporate technology like HyFlex and distance learning into the options for our students, because if they're not exposed to it in our classroom, they will be somewhere. So it's better for them to learn along with us as we have no new tools and expose them to those things so that, you know, they have that as an advantage in the workplace. I say don't be afraid. You know, it does take a little bit maybe at first to get used to it. talk to other teachers, whether it's in your subject matter or who are using similar curriculum, to see, what tips and tricks they've used to incorporate it into the classroom. And then really maybe ask some of the students who have had HyFlex how it's benefited them, because at the end of the day, I feel like that's the biggest motivation. If the students are benefiting, they're happy with it. Although, technology, it's always frustrating that the benefits far outweigh some of the challenges that come along with getting it set up at first.
With Google Workspace, apps like Docs, Drive, Gmail, and Meet are connected and in one place.
Our next teacher works for, I think, the program that Sarah talked about, the Disability and Access Resource Center. Our program manager is here too, Kenya. If you have any questions about our services for students, adult students with disabilities, you can ask her. But she also teaches students that just have maybe need more support in learning. It's not just about disability, but she is serving a population that might need more help, and yet they're still doing HyFlex, right? And so it's just showing you that it can reach all different students. So this is Margaret Macabasco.
Macabasco, and I am the education specialist here with the Disability and Access Resource Center. So DARC is an office that we have at all 4 school sites, and we provide support services to students with and without a disability that include accommodations for the high school equivalency tests, self-advocacy strategies so they can ask for support with their teachers. And we also offer an academic development class, which I teach. So my biggest takeaway is that while there are a plethora of resources available, focusing on just a few main tools has made things a lot less overwhelming for me. The PDs were very informative, but I remember feeling like there were so many apps, tools, and resources that I just couldn't decide on which one to use. So I stopped and I thought about the classes that I teach and what would really benefit my students, and decided to just use a few to start. And now those few are actually my go-tos, and I've been able to branch out and try new ones like Magic School AI. I've learned more about tools that simplify planning tasks as a teacher and also make student learning more accessible. So as a former special education teacher at a 712 school site, I am constantly thinking about how to differentiate a lesson to accommodate all the learners in the classroom. It's been really exciting learning about all the different applications that can help me with just that, and programs that not only help students with understanding the content better, but also that can help a teacher with planning and making the whole process a little bit more simple. So my top 3 are Google Classroom, because it's a platform where I can store, share, and organize materials with students. It's also really helpful because I actually travel between sites, and I've had times in the past where I would leave materials at one school site and have to rush to make copies at the next one. With Google Classroom, everything's online and digital, and students can access it and then send it back to me on there. Another one is OneNote, along with a writing pad that allows me to digitally model how to solve math problems and also brainstorm written responses. And last but not least, Screencastify is also one of my top 3. And that allows me to record lessons and tutorials that allow students to rewatch and catch if there's anything that they missed, but also prevents me from having to repeat the same information over and over.
So because they mentioned so many things, right? I gave you a list of all the tools. So we will have the slides. Destiny will upload them after the session in Wahuva. But yeah, if you want to take, these were all the things mentioned. I won't go through that again. The one I do want to highlight is the AI tool that we just adopted, and that's Magic School AI. And if you haven't heard of it, it's about 70 or more tools that help teachers with content creation, from lesson plans, rubrics, presentation slides, image generator, and it also has like a chat GPT function. They call her Raina, where you can use her like you would chat GPT. Okay. So we wanted to give you what the students think about. What do the students actually think about HyFlex? So we did a survey. What do you like about online learning? So 74% said, I can study from anywhere. Why do you join class online? 62% says they have work or family responsibilities. 12% said they had about transportation or other challenges. This is a survey of 34 students. And then how has online learning helped you? So 42% say they can review lessons at any time. 38, they can balance life better. And 20% said more flexibility in learning. So, and then we asked for comments. So here are some of the top comments. I'm very happy with the online class, and their teacher sends her the documents before class, right, to them. And then the second person, they're not close to school. They know that they can't make it. I know I can join class online. It makes them feel better. Even though they're not physically present, they're actually still attending, and they don't want to miss important topics from class. And then the last one is the online classes are a great option for people who, for some reason, can't attend classes in person. And all of our teachers actually decide like how many times the students can come online, the reasons that the student comes online. So the teacher has a lot of autonomy when they are giving HyFlex learning, okay? Even though most teachers will say they prefer in person, but because of the compassion and they don't want students to miss, of course, they're like, okay, I don't want you to miss. Oh, you're going to go into the military and you need to join online. Okay, we're going to have you join online. Or you're going, you have to be in bed because you hurt your leg. I don't want you to miss. Join online. So this is me. So some of the initial outcomes, next steps, and advice. Just checking the time. Okay. We go till 5, right? Okay. So here's the participation data. Remember, it is opting in, as Sarah said. So the first year we did it, 22-23, it was our first year, we had 20 teacher participants. We didn't really do a lot of PD. It was just kind of like, here's the owl, this is how you use it. Here's a smartboard, this is how you use it. Okay, go, right? Not the best idea, I just have to tell you. The next year is when we had OTAN and World Ed come in, and we did this year-long PD. And during the year-long, we had 24. So we had 4 extra teachers. This year, we have 29 teachers participating, and 3 are participating because they're newer teachers, are kind of looking to maybe incorporate it. So, we're having pretty good, what do you call it? Participation, I think. We have about, how many teachers? 60? 60 teachers, both morning and night. So the outcomes. After the year-long PD, Destiny so graciously created a Google Sites for us. And so it has all the resources that happen during the year, so our teachers can get to that. I myself did a recording and resources document. So it's one of those that has the link for each week that we did training, that they can go in and look at all the slides, look at the recording. So they have access to that. Here are the most used apps by teachers. So they use Padlet, Poll Everywhere, Classroom Screen, TWE, ChatGPT, and Reading Skills for Today. We did the adoption of Magic School. As I said, that was one of the outcomes. Better engagement for online students. So our teachers are like really getting them engaged, especially in small groups. And then we're teaching the better troubleshooting. Before, the teachers were afraid to touch that owl because they're going to break it. And no, you're not going to break it. Let's teach you how to actually unplug and do everything. So those are the outcomes. So continued support. So we didn't stop with the 1 year. You have to continue to do that. So I run a once a month HyFlex support meeting for 1 hour. And we talk about engagement strategies. We talk about some of the apps that we use. We talk about HyFlex Google Classroom, so they can join our HyFlex Google Classroom so they can see what the students do so I'm the teacher and they're the student in my Google Classroom. We constantly review troubleshooting tips, always, because they forget or they're not sure, something weird comes up. So we're always doing that with the equipment. They were given documents to review. So some like to print it out and put it on the back of their board so they can refer to them if they're having problems. I do weekly videos on Magic School AI to show them the different tools. So that is one way for our adopted curriculum. We are adding more technology because, as you can see here with online, you can see what I'm sharing, but you don't see the online participants. Right. So and I think that's really important for engagement. So I may be adding another board or another projector so they can split the screen for you can see, as well as more laptops, increase the laptops, the student loan program. So a lot of times I've heard, I did a poll in the Wahuva app, and a lot of you said, our students don't have access to technology. So we have a student loan program because we do have rural areas. Like by the border, it's so hard to get online, like Wi-Fi and stuff. So hotspots, we lend out hotspots, we lend out laptops. About how many per year? Do you know, Sarah, off the top of your head? We just bought 745 more laptops to hand out next year. And then the HyFlex attendance system is a new thing. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Yes. So for the HyFlex attendance, what we learned is we wanted data. We wanted to see how many students were taking advantage of the opportunity. And we realized that we didn't have a mechanism for this, right? Teachers were going in and putting attendance, and we weren't able to differentiate who was online and who was in person. So what we did was created a Google, like everything, a Google form. Let's put it out there and we'll look at the spreadsheet. We implemented it in January, and I can tell you that between January 14th, when we started the semester, through March 20th, we've had 654 sign-ons, right? That there could be duplicate students, but that's letting me know that we are reaching them. They're using it, they like it, and this is data that we can share with our teachers. I want to identify which are the program areas that are using it the most. What are the times that the students are logging in? Now there's a mechanism for us to do that. Yes. Sure.
So this is along the line of a question from chat, which says, how do you measure the academic results?
Huh? Okay, to repeat the question, how do we measure? How do we measure the academic results when we compare in person only with the HyFlex? We haven't. I mean, we weren't able to differentiate the students. We can now, right? Okay, when it comes to CASAs, yes, we do look at reports. What I can tell you where we are now, we're piloting the teacher portal, right? We want to be able to put the data into the teacher's hands for them to be able to get that. We have testing technicians, so that would give them a student gains report, but it was very sparse, right? It wasn't, when they needed it. Now it's, here, teachers, you have access to this. You can go in there. We have teachers that are more data happy, like me, right? And that want to know in advance, how are my students doing? They can see for the high school equivalency teachers with their pre-test, using the individual skills profile, it lets them know whether they're most likely to pass the high set or the GED, just based on the reading comprehension. So after our fall break, when we come back in about a week, we want to test out the student portal. We'll see. So we're really excited about that. But I hope to get to answer that question is based on the data that we have, the little data on attendance. When we create class instances, do we have the ability to mark the HyFlex and not? We're looking at that now. We just started working with CASAS about 4 weeks ago with the teacher portal. Yes, but I'm actually I'm gonna go talk to the CASAS people because I want to know how much the teacher portal can do for us. Yes, another question?
Sarah, I'm very impressed with your student loan program, but what is the attrition or loss that you have noticed?
Oh, the attrition and loss. So they're impressed with the student loan program. What's the attrition? Honestly, when we give these out to students, we don't expect to get them back. That's kind of how we're approaching it. We're asking teachers, do your best. But if the student leaves with a device that's really going to change and impact their life, then that's okay. Right. And luckily we're built in. We have a director that built all this in for us. So we're very, very fortunate. Okay, thank you.
Now, the data that we do have is that HyFlex classrooms have a 6% more retention rate than those without HyFlex. That's the only data we can give you right now. But hopefully with this new attendance system, we'll be able to capture more. So my once a month meeting, this is just an example meeting agenda. So, and this agenda takes us a year. So we talk about understanding HyFlex. We do have in-meeting assignments so that I'm actually showing them what it looks like from a student perspective, how they can participate. So I'll have a Google slide, they join the Google slide, they're putting in their comments, similar to what students would do with their teachers. We talk about best practices, adapting curriculum, supporting students with digital literacy, measuring success, and HyFlex Google Classroom or Google Folder. So this is kind of my year. And honestly, we're only at number 4 and we're almost towards the end of the year. So the last thing, advice. If you were to try and do a year-long PD for your teachers, your student, not your students, for your teachers, you wanted to replicate something like we're doing now. One, dedicated training time. So we did, so our collaboration, we have like a division-wide meeting, and then we added the training onto that division-wide meeting. I would not suggest that. I would say just dedicate training and PD to just training, no announcements, no other things. Arrange training on a non-student day, because we were doing 1 hour 1 week and another hour another week. It's just better to do 2 hours at one time. And you're just going to get more professional development 1 day a month. That's my suggestion. More hands-on practice. That's the one thing we kept saying is we want to play with it. We want to work on it. Let's work on it together in groups. That's what we're now doing in our HyFlex meeting. And then limit how many tools are introduced during the year. I think you heard one of the teachers say it was like a hose of, different things, because we get so excited. At least I do. I was like, I want to show you this. I want to show you this. But for them, I think it's better, especially if they have lower digital skills, to do limited amount of tools and then maybe have them repeat it. So like if Destiny introduces the HyFlex portion using a tool, then maybe Christy, who is the tech trainer, talk about how to integrate it into the classroom, something similar to that. Okay, and
well, we'd like to thank you all for ending your day with us. But if you'd like your day at COEAP to not end, there's still some digital literacy and technology strand activities going on. At 5 o'clock tonight, there's going to be a networking session for digital literacy and technology in Reunion F. We hope you join us there. There's a tech jam that's going to be done on Wednesday, April the 2nd. Anthony Berg from OTAN is going to be leading that. And so it's going to be a great time. So we hope you join some of those events. And here's our contact information. So if you have any questions online, please feel free to leave them in the chat and we'll still leave our microphone on so you can hear them. If you're in person, please feel free to ask them. But thank you so much for spending your time with us. Have a great day.